Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon and watched the strange object grow larger on the main screen. The ship had been exploring space near Alpha Centauri for 3 months when they found it. The object was huge and made of what looked like crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Jake had never seen anything like it in his 20 years of space travel. His crew was quiet as they moved closer to the mysterious structure. "Captain, we are getting a signal," said Communications Officer Lisa Carter from her station. She looked up at Jake with wide eyes. "It is not like any human signal I have ever heard before." Jake walked over to her station and listened to the strange sounds coming through the speakers. The sounds were musical but also seemed to have meaning behind them. Dr. Alex Turner, the ship's scientist, joined them at the communications station. Alex had studied many languages on Earth, but this was completely different. "Try to respond?" Jake told Lisa. "Send them our standard first contact message." Lisa pressed several buttons on her control panel and sent out the message that Earth had prepared for meeting alien life. The message included pictures of humans, Earth, and basic math to show they were intelligent. They waited for what felt like hours but was only 10 minutes. The crystal structure began to change. Parts of it moved and opened like a flower blooming. A smaller ship came out from inside it. The smaller ship was also made of crystal but moved like it was alive. It came close to the horizon and stopped just outside their viewing windows. "Captain Morrison of Earth," a voice suddenly spoke in perfect English through their speakers. "We are the Galactic Council. We have been watching your species for many years." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was the moment humans had dreamed about and feared for centuries. He straightened his uniform and spoke clearly into the microphone. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We come in peace and hope to learn from you." The alien voice continued speaking. "We are Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your species has grown much in recent decades. Your technology advances quickly and your people spread across many worlds. The Galactic Council has decided to invite humanity to join us." "Doctor." Turner grabbed Jake's arm. "This is incredible," Alex whispered. "They want us to join them." Ambassador Veltar explained that the Galactic Council was made up of 12 different alien species. They had kept peace in the galaxy for over 3,000 years. Each species had different abilities and knowledge that helped all of them grow stronger together. The Council's main rule was that all problems must be solved without fighting or war. "Your species must prove you can follow our ways," Veltar said. "You must show that humans can solve conflicts with words and wisdom instead of weapons and war. If you can do this, humanity will become the 13th member of our council." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. Lisa Carter nodded at him with excitement in her eyes. Dr. Turner was already taking notes on everything the alien was saying. The rest of the crew watched and waited for his decision. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we accept your invitation," Jake said. "We want to learn your ways of peace and join the galactic community." The crystal ship began to glow brighter. "Then you will come with us to the council station. Your leaders and diplomats will need to meet the other council members. The testing period will begin immediately." Jake ordered his crew to prepare for the journey. The Horizon followed the crystal ship away from Alpha Centauri toward the center of the galaxy. The trip took several days but felt much shorter because of the amazing things they saw along the way. They passed huge space stations and ships of designs no human had ever imagined. The council station was the biggest artificial structure Jake had ever seen. It was like a small planet made of metal and crystal that orbited a massive star. Ships from many different worlds came and went from docking bays all around its surface. The Horizon was guided to a special docking area designed for new species. When they docked, Ambassador Veltar met them in person. The alien was tall and thin with skin that seemed to be made of light. Veltar's face was kind but also showed great age and wisdom. Other aliens waited nearby to greet the humans. Some looked like giant insects, others seemed to be made of water, and some appeared to be pure energy floating in the air. "Welcome to the Galactic Council," Veltar said. Your testing begins now. You will have observers watching your colonies and your people. Every choice your species makes will be judged. If you can prove that humans can live in peace with others, you will be welcomed as full members." Jake shook hands with the alien ambassador, not knowing that some members of the council were already planning to make sure humanity would fail their test. In the shadows of the great station, darker plans were being made by those who did not want humans to join their peaceful galaxy. 3 months had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council as probationary members. Captain Jake Morrison had learned to navigate the complex politics of the council station while ambassador. Lisa Carter worked with alien diplomats every day. Dr. Alex Turner spent most of his time studying the different alien cultures and their technologies. Everything seemed to be going well until the emergency message arrived. The message came from New Seattle, a human mining colony on a planet called Kepler 442b. The colony had been attacked by unknown raiders during the night shift. Dozens of miners and their families were dead, and the main processing facilities had been completely destroyed. The attackers had used advanced energy weapons that left strange burn patterns on the metal structures. Jake gathered his senior staff in the briefing room. Chief Security Officer Ryan Brooks displayed images from the attack site on the main screen. The damage was extensive and clearly meant to cause maximum harm to both people and equipment. Ryan had been a police detective on Earth before joining the Space Service, and his experience with crime scenes was valuable now. "The attack was planned and executed by professionals," Ryan explained. "They knew exactly where to hit for maximum damage. The weapon signatures don't match anything in our databases." Lisa Carter looked troubled as she studied the reports. "The council is already asking questions about this. Some members are wondering if humans attract violence wherever we go." Dr. Turner pointed to the energy readings from the attack site. "These weapon patterns are similar to technology used by the hegemony of Sector. I've been studying their old military records in the council archives." The hegemony was one of the most powerful members of the council. Their leader, Overlord Nexruth, had made it clear from the beginning that he did not trust humans. During council meetings, Nexruth often spoke about how violent human history was and how dangerous it would be to let humans have access to advanced galactic technology. Jake decided to investigate the attack personally. The Horizon traveled to New Seattle with a small team of council observers, including a Zephyrian investigator and a Krythek forensics expert. The journey gave Jake time to think about how this attack could affect humanity's chances of joining the council permanently. When they arrived at New Seattle, the destruction was even worse than the reports had shown. Entire buildings had been melted down to their foundations. The colony's mayor, Helen Davis, met them at the landing site. Her face was tired and sad as she led them through what remained of her town. "They came in the middle of the night," Helen explained. "No warning, no demands, nothing. They just started destroying everything. My husband Tom was working the late shift at the main processor. He didn't make it out." Ryan Brooks worked with the alien investigators to examine the attack site. The energy weapon residue was definitely from hegemony technology, but something seemed wrong about the evidence. The burn patterns were too perfect, too clean. Real weapons used in combat usually left more random damage. Dr. Turner made an important discovery while examining the destroyed medical center. Hidden in the rubble, he found traces of a biological weapon that had been designed specifically to affect human DNA. The weapon would have caused terrible sickness in humans, but would not have harmed any of the alien species in the council. "This wasn't just an attack," Alex told Jake privately. "Someone is studying us, learning how to hurt us in ways that would look like accidents or natural diseases." Meanwhile, Lisa Carter was fighting a political battle at the council station. Overlord Nexruth had called for an emergency session to discuss the attack on New Seattle. He argued that humans were clearly a violent species that brought conflict wherever they went. The fact that they had been attacked so soon after joining proved that they were not ready for galactic civilization. "Perhaps the humans are even attacking themselves to gain sympathy," Nexruth suggested during the council session. "Their species has a long history of deception and false flag operations." Lisa defended humanity as best she could, but she could see that some council members were starting to doubt whether humans belonged in their peaceful galaxy. The Ilarian Republic's ambassador, Sylvain, spoke in support of humanity, reminding the council that the humans were victims of the attack, not the aggressors. Back on New Seattle, Jake and his team continued their investigation. They found more evidence that pointed to the hegemony, but every piece of evidence seemed too convenient, too obvious. Ryan Brooks had investigated enough crimes to know when someone was being framed. "Captain," Ryan said as they examined the attack site's command center, "I think we're looking at this wrong. The evidence is too clean. Real attackers would have made mistakes, left unintended clues. This looks like someone wanted us to find exactly what we found." Dr. Turner agreed with Ryan's assessment. "The biological weapon traces are also suspicious. Why would raiders carry something so specific and then leave evidence of it behind? Unless they wanted us to find it and realize how vulnerable we are." Jake realized that humanity was being tested in ways the council had not intended. Someone was trying to make humans fail their probationary period by making them look like violent troublemakers. The question was whether they could prove this conspiracy before it was too late. As news of the attack spread through human space, other colonies reported similar incidents. Each attack followed the same pattern: sudden strikes with advanced weapons, maximum damage to infrastructure, and evidence that pointed toward different council species. The attacks were clearly coordinated, but by whom and why remained a mystery. Lisa Carter worked frantically to keep the council from voting to expel humanity immediately. She found allies among some of the smaller council species who remembered what it was like to be new and vulnerable. But with each new attack, more council members began to agree with Overlord Nexrath that humans were too dangerous to remain in the galactic community. Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan refused to accept the official story about the attacks on human colonies. While Captain Jake Morrison dealt with council politics and Ryan Brooks investigated the crime scenes, Kate worked on her own secret mission. She had been Jake's tactical officer for 5 years and knew when something didn't add up. The attacks were too perfect, too coordinated to be random raiders. Kate assembled a small team of trusted crew members. Engineer Ben Rodriguez had worked on alien technology for months and understood how different species built their weapons. Communications specialist Amy Johnson could track signals across multiple star systems without being detected. Together, they began following clues that the official investigation had missed or ignored. Their breakthrough came when Amy detected a pattern in the subspace communications right before each attack. Someone was sending coded messages to coordinates in empty space near each targeted colony. The messages used old hegemony encryption, but they were being sent from locations that had nothing to do with official hegemony territory. "The signals are bouncing through relay stations," Amy explained to Kate and Ben in the Horizon's unused cargo bay where they held their secret meetings. "Someone is trying very hard to hide where these orders are really coming from." Ben had been studying the weapon residue from all the attack sites. The energy signatures match hegemony weapons, but they're too old. These weapons use technology that the hegemony stopped using 50 years ago. It's like someone found old weapons in a museum and decided to use them. Kate realized that someone was using outdated hegemony weapons specifically to frame the current hegemony government. The real attackers wanted the evidence to point toward Overlord Nexrath's people, but they made the mistake of using weapons that were too old to be part of the modern hegemony. Military, following the communication signals, led Kate's team to a dead solar system on the edge of hegemony space. The system had 3 dead planets orbiting a dying star. Long-range scans showed that one of the planets had artificial structures on its surface. Kate convinced Jake to let her take a small shuttle to investigate while the Horizon waited at a safe distance. The planet's surface was covered in toxic storms, but the structures were built underground in a network of connected tunnels and chambers. Kate, Ben, and Amy used environmental suits to explore the facility. What they found was much worse than they had expected. The underground base was a research facility where scientists were conducting experiments on captured humans. Dozens of people from the attacked colonies were being held in cells while alien Researchers studied their biology and psychology. The facility was run by Dr. Zeke Moore, a hegemony scientist who had been officially declared dead 20 years ago. Dr. Zeke Moore was creating biological weapons designed specifically to harm humans in ways that would look like natural diseases. He was also developing psychological warfare techniques that would make human colonies turn against each other. The goal was to make humanity look like a violent, unstable species that could not be trusted with membership in the Galactic Council. Kate and her team rescued as many prisoners as they could, including colony administrator Helen Davis and her 10-year-old daughter, Lucy. Helen told them that Dr. Zeekmer had been questioning the prisoners about human military tactics and government structures. He seemed particularly interested in how humans organized their defenses and what would make them most likely to fight back when attacked. He kept asking about our weapons, our ships, our military leaders, Helen explained as they helped her, and the other prisoners to their shuttle. He said he needed to understand how humans would react when they realized the galaxy didn't want them. Amy Johnson discovered computer files in the research facility that revealed the full scope of the conspiracy. Dr. Zeekmer was not working alone. Several high-ranking members of different council species were secretly supporting his work. They had been planning to eliminate humanity from the council long before humans ever received their invitation to join. The conspiracy went deeper than just wanting to keep humans out of the council. Some species were afraid that human military technology and tactics would upset the balance of power in the galaxy. Others were concerned that human expansion would threaten their own territories and resources. They had decided that the best solution was to make humanity destroy their own reputation. Ben Rodriguez found the weapons manufacturing area where Dr. Zeekmer's team was producing copies of old hegemony weapons. The weapons were designed to leave specific energy signatures that would point investigators toward current hegemony forces. The conspirators planned to keep attacking human colonies until the Council had no choice but to expel humanity for bringing violence to the galaxy. As Kate's team prepared to leave the facility with their rescued prisoners and evidence of the conspiracy, alarms began sounding throughout the underground base. Dr. Zeekmer had discovered the rescue operation and was calling for help. A hegemony fleet was already on its way to destroy the facility and eliminate all witnesses to the conspiracy. Kate contacted Captain Morrison on the horizon and explained the situation. Jake faced an impossible choice. If he followed council protocols, he would have to wait for official council investigators to arrive, which could take days. By then, Dr. Zeekmer's allies would have destroyed all evidence and killed all the witnesses. But if Jake attacked the incoming hegemony fleet to protect the prisoners, he would be violating humanity's probationary terms and giving the conspirators exactly what they wanted. The hegemony ships arrived in the system within hours. Their commander, war leader Thexanol, sent a message to the horizon demanding that they surrender the stolen hegemony property and leave the system immediately. When Jake refused, the hegemony ships moved to attack positions around the planet. "Captain," Kate called from the planet's surface, "they're preparing to bombard the entire facility. They're going to kill everyone down here to cover up the conspiracy." Jake watched on his tactical display as the hegemony ships charged their main weapons and aimed them at the underground facility. In a few minutes, all the evidence of the conspiracy would be destroyed, along with dozens of innocent human prisoners. The Council would never know the truth about who had really been attacking human colonies. Jake made his decision. All weapons target the hegemony vessels. Protect the facility and the prisoners at all costs. The battle was swift and devastating. Human weapons and tactics, developed through centuries of warfare, proved far superior to the hegemony forces, who had not fought a real battle in decades. Within minutes, the hegemony fleet was destroyed or fleeing. But Jake knew that by firing those first shots, humanity had just given their enemies exactly what they needed to expel humans from the Galactic Council permanently. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began just 6 hours after the battle at Nexus Prime. Captain Jake Morrison, stood in the center of the great chamber while representatives from 12 alien species sat in judgment of humanity's actions. The chamber was built like an ancient amphitheater, with the accused standing in the middle while their judges looked down from elevated platforms around them. Overlord Nexroth presented the case against humanity with cold precision. He displayed recordings of the battle that showed human ships destroying hegemony vessels with devastating efficiency. The weapons used by the humans cut through hegemony shields and armor like they were made of paper. The speed and coordination of the human attack shocked many council members who had never seen such advanced military tactics. "You see before you the proof of what we have always suspected," Nexroth declared to the assembled council. "Humanity is a species bred for violence and war. Given the slightest excuse, they resort to the destruction of life and property. These humans destroyed an entire hegemony fleet without attempting negotiation or seeking council mediation." Ambassador Lisa Carter stood beside Jake and tried to present humanity's side of the story. She had worked for 3 months to build relationships with the other council species, but she could see doubt and fear in their eyes as they looked at the battle recordings. Dr. Alex Turner helped her display evidence from the secret facility, including testimony from the rescued prisoners and data from Dr. Zikamer's computers. "The humans were protecting innocent lives," Lisa argued. "They discovered a conspiracy to frame humanity and destroy our reputation within the council." Captain Morrison had no choice but to defend the prisoners who were being held illegally. The rescued prisoners testified about their experiences in Dr. Zikamer's facility. Helen Davis described the biological weapons research and the psychological experiments. Her daughter Lucy told the council about the alien scientists who had hurt people and asked scary questions about human families and homes. Other prisoners showed evidence of medical procedures and torture that had been conducted without their consent, but many council members seemed more frightened by humanity's military capabilities than concerned about the conspiracy. The crystalline convergence representative, a being made of living crystal that communicated through light patterns, expressed the fear that many species felt. "The humans destroyed professional military vessels in minutes," the crystalline being flashed in rapid bursts of colored light that were translated by the chamber's computers. "Their weapons technology exceeds our understanding. Their tactical coordination suggests centuries of warfare experience. How can we share a galaxy with being so efficient at destruction?" The Voidwalker representative spoke next, its voice creating harmonics that made the entire chamber vibrate with uncomfortable frequencies. "We sense the truth in the human testimony about this conspiracy, but we also sense something more disturbing. These humans are not afraid of war. They embrace it as a solution to problems. This makes them fundamentally incompatible with our civilization." Dr. Turner tried to explain that humanity had developed advanced military technology precisely because they had learned the cost of being unprepared for conflict. Earth's history was full of examples where peaceful nations had been conquered by aggressive neighbors. Human military strength was meant to prevent war, not encourage it, the Ilarian Republic's ambassador Sylvine emerged as humanity's strongest supporter during the debates. Her species had once been conquered by aggressive neighbors and understood the value of being able to defend yourself. Sylvine argued that humanity's willingness to risk their council membership to save innocent lives showed exactly the kind of moral courage the galaxy needed. "The humans could have followed our protocols and let the prisoners die," Sylvine said in her musical voice. "Instead, they chose to sacrifice their own future to save others. Is this not the behavior we should encourage in our council members?" Several smaller species supported Sylvine's position. The Archives of Keth, a species of scholars and historians, pointed out that the conspiracy evidence was genuine and that punishing humanity for exposing it would only encourage future conspiracies. The Merlion Federation, an aquatic species, known for their wisdom, suggested that humanity should be given credit for their restraint in only targeting military vessels and avoiding civilian casualties, but the fear of human military power was stronger than admiration for human moral choices. The Dominion of Kar's representative, a tall reptilian being with cold yellow eyes, spoke for many council members when he declared that humanity's efficiency in warfare made them too dangerous to trust with advanced galactic technology. Admiral Patricia Stone arrived from Earth on the fourth day of deliberations, commanding a small fleet of Earth defense ships. Her presence in the system sent a clear message that humanity would not abandon their colonies without a fight. Admiral Stone met privately with Jake and Lisa to coordinate humanity's response to whatever the Council decided. "We have 47 colonies beyond the solar system," Admiral Stone explained. "Nearly 2 million citizens who have built new lives on distant worlds. I will not order them to abandon everything they have worked for because some aliens are afraid of our military." The Council deliberated for 6 days while tension built throughout human space. Colonial governments prepared for the worst case scenario. Governor Peter Marshall of Mars Colony coordinated with military commanders like General Sam Parker and Colonel Lavra Mitchell to organize evacuation plans for civilians while preparing defenses for those who chose to stay and fight. On Earth, billions of people watched news broadcasts from the Council station and waited to learn their species' fate. Public opinion was divided between those who wanted to cooperate with the Council's wishes and those who believed humanity should never surrender to alien demands. Protests and counter-protests filled the streets of major cities while government leaders prepared for either outcome. When the final vote came, Lisa Carter felt her heart sink as she watched the results display on the chamber's main screen. 7 species voted for immediate expulsion of humanity from all territories beyond their original solar system. 5 species voted to extend humanity's probationary period and investigate the conspiracy further. 1 species abstained from voting, saying they needed more time to consider the evidence. Overlord Nexruth stood to announce the Council's decision with obvious satisfaction in his voice. By majority vote, humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council and ordered to withdraw from all territories beyond their home solar system within 30 standard days. Failure to comply will result in joint Council enforcement action. Jake felt the weight of failure crushing down on him as he realized his decision to protect the prisoners had given humanity's enemies exactly what they wanted. Lisa Carter tried to maintain her diplomatic composure, but tears ran down her face as she thought about the millions of humans who would lose their homes because of the Council's fear. Admiral Patricia Stone stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Fleet headquarters and stared at the countdown timer on the main display. 23 days remained until the Council's deadline for humanity to withdraw from all colonies beyond the solar system. Around her, military officers and civilian officials worked frantically to prepare for what many believed would be the most important decision in human history. "Admiral, we're receiving updates from all colonial governments," reported Colonel Don Foster, her chief of staff. 31 colonies have voted to evacuate their civilian populations but maintain military presence. 16 colonies have voted to resist evacuation completely. Patricia studied the tactical displays showing human space and the locations of Council forces. Intelligence reports indicated that several alien species were moving military assets toward human territories. The hegemony of Sector had positioned 3 battle fleets at strategic jump points, while the Dominion of Kar and Crystalline Convergence were building up forces near their borders with human space, but not all the galaxy was united against humanity. Ambassador Sylvine of the Ilarian Republic had arrived at Earth 3 days ago with a small diplomatic fleet. She brought news that several species were questioning the Council's decision and considering forming an alliance to support humanity's right to exist in the galaxy. Captain Nancy Thompson, commanding the defense preparations for the Proxima Centauri system, sent daily reports about Council reconnaissance probes testing human defenses. The probes were clearly mapping human military installations and fleet positions in preparation for enforcement action. Nancy's forces had strict orders not to fire on the probes unless directly threatened, but the tension was building every day. Dr. Alex Turner had been working with civilian leaders to coordinate evacuation plans for non-essential personnel from the outer colonies. Governor Peter Marshall of Mars Colony had volunteered his world as a refugee center for displaced colonists, while Director Sandra Kim of the Titan Research Station was organizing the preservation of scientific research that might be lost if the colonies were abandoned. The political situation was becoming more complex, as different alien species chose sides in the growing conflict. The archives of Keth had declared their neutrality, but offered to mediate between humanity and the Council. The Merlian Federation was secretly providing intelligence about Council military movements to human commanders. Even some members of the hegemony were questioning Overlord Nexroth's aggressive policies. Jake Morrison had been promoted to admiral and given command of the Forward Defense Forces. His experience with alien politics and his role in discovering the conspiracy made him valuable for dealing with the complex diplomatic and military challenges ahead. Kate Sullivan, now a full commander, led the intelligence operations that were monitoring Council activities throughout the galaxy. The hegemony made the first aggressive move 15 days before the deadline. War Commander Threxnell led an advance fleet into the Proxima Centauri system, claiming they were conducting routine patrol operations in what would soon be former human territory. The hegemony ships positioned themselves near human colonies and began scanning defensive installations. Admiral Stone authorized Captain Nancy Thompson to respond with a show of force. Human defense ships moved to intercept the hegemony fleet, and for several tense hours the two forces faced each other across empty space. Neither side fired, but the message was clear. Humanity would not be intimidated by Council forces entering their space before the deadline. Admiral Commander Kate Sullivan reported from her intelligence station, "Our long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements throughout Council space. At least 8 species are positioning forces for coordinated action against human colonies." The intelligence reports revealed the scope of the Council's enforcement preparations. Over 400 alien warships were being assembled at staging areas throughout the galaxy. The force was large enough to overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers, even if individual alien ships were inferior to human vessels in combat capability. But the Council forces had a critical weakness that human military planners were quick to identify. The alien species had spent centuries in peace and had little experience with coordinated military operations between different governments. Their ships used incompatible communication systems. Their commanders had never worked together, and their tactical doctrines were often centuries out of date. Dr. Turner made a disturbing discovery while analyzing captured Council military communications. Most alien species had maintained only ceremonial military forces during their long peace. Their weapons were designed more for show than for actual combat, and their ships were built with comfort and diplomacy in mind rather than battlefield survival. The galaxy had become so peaceful that most species had forgotten how to wage effective war. This revelation changed human strategic planning completely. Admiral Stone and her commanders realized that the Council's numerical advantage might not be as decisive as it first appeared. Human ships were designed by a species that had never forgotten the reality of warfare, with weapon systems, armor, and tactics that had been continuously refined through centuries of conflict. The test came sooner than expected when hegemony forces in the Volf 359 system demanded that human colonists begin immediate evacuation procedures. When the colonists refused, citing the remaining time before the deadline, War Commander Threxnell ordered his ships to begin enforcement bombardment of what he called illegal human installations. Admiral Jake Morrison was in the system with a small patrol fleet when the hegemony ships opened fire on the colony's orbital stations. Jake faced the same impossible choice he had encountered at Nexus Prime, but this time the stakes were even higher. Millions of people throughout human space were watching to see how their military would respond to direct attack. Jake's response was swift and devastating. Human ships using advanced targeting systems and coordinated battle tactics destroyed the entire hegemony force in less than 20 minutes. The battle was so one-sided that several hegemony vessels surrendered rather than face certain destruction. War Commander Threxnell's flagship was captured intact, providing human intelligence with valuable information about Council military capabilities. News of the victory at Volf 359 spread throughout the galaxy within hours. Species that had assumed human military power was exaggerated suddenly realized that their own forces might be completely outmatched in actual combat. Some council members began calling for negotiations rather than military enforcement of the expulsion order, but Overlord Nexroth and his allies were too committed to their course of action to back down. The hegemony leader declared that the attack on their fleet proved humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist anywhere in the galaxy. He called for total war against human civilization and began rallying the more aggressive council species. To support immediate military action, the galaxy was now divided into three camps. Those who supported the council's original decision to expel humanity, those who wanted to negotiate a peaceful solution, and those who believed humanity had the right to defend their colonies by any means necessary. War seemed inevitable as both sides prepared for conflicts that would reshape the political structure of galactic civilization. The war that followed changed the galaxy forever. What council leaders had expected to be a simple enforcement action against a troublesome species became a devastating conflict that revealed how completely unprepared their civilizations were for modern warfare. Admiral Patricia Stone coordinated human forces across dozens of star systems, while brilliant commanders like General Karen Phillips and Admiral Jake Morrison consistently outmaneuvered and outfought their alien opponents. The first major battle occurred at the Kepler 438 system, where a combined council fleet of over 60 ships attacked the human agricultural colony. The colonists had refused to evacuate, and the council forces came to remove them by force. Admiral Morrison commanded the defense with only 12 human vessels. But the technological and tactical advantages were overwhelming. Human ships used advanced shield technology and precision weapons to systematically destroy the attacking fleet while avoiding damage to the planet's surface. The battle lasted 4 hours and ended with 57 alien ships destroyed or captured. Human casualties were limited to minor damage on 3 vessels and no loss of life. The Council fleet, commanded by High Admiral Krekthar of the Dominion of Kar, had expected to face resistance similar to what they had seen in ancient historical records. Instead, they encountered weapons that could penetrate their strongest shields and tactics that anticipated their every move. Dr. Alex Turner, now serving as scientific advisor to the military command, analyzed captured alien technology and made disturbing discoveries about the state of Council military forces. Most alien weapons had not been significantly upgraded in over 200 years. Their shield generators used power systems that human engineers considered primitive. Even their most advanced warships were designed with the assumption that battles would be fought according to ancient rules of engagement that no longer applied to modern warfare. The siege of the hegemony homeworld demonstrated the gap between human and alien military capabilities most dramatically. Overlord Nexroth had gathered the largest defensive fleet in hegemony history around their capital world, with over 120 ships equipped with their most powerful weapons. The hegemony leader was confident that sheer numbers would overcome human tactical advantages. Admiral Stone led the attack personally, commanding a fleet of 35 human vessels. The battle plan was complex and required precise coordination between multiple ship groups, but it took advantage of everything humans had learned about alien weaknesses during previous engagements. The human fleet used electronic warfare to disrupt alien communications, advanced sensors to track enemy movements, and coordinated strike tactics to concentrate firepower where it would be most effective. The siege lasted only 3 days before Overlord Nexroth surrendered unconditionally. The hegemony fleet had been reduced to scattered groups of damaged ships hiding behind their homeworld's moons. Civilian casualties were kept to minimum because human forces targeted only military installations and avoided populated areas. But the psychological impact was devastating for a species that had not experienced military defeat in over 1,000 years. But victory came at a terrible cost that went far beyond the immediate battle casualties. The crystalline convergence lost their entire military cast in a single disastrous engagement when they tried to use ancient swarm tactics against human point defense systems. Thousands of crystal beings who had served as ceremonial guardians for centuries were destroyed in minutes by weapons they could not comprehend or counter. The Dominion of Kar saw their orbital defense platforms around their homeworld reduced to debris in less than 6 hours when they refused to allow human inspection teams to verify. They were not building weapons of mass destruction. The engagement revealed that their mighty fortresses were designed to impress rather than defend, with weak points that human engineers identified from studying basic construction plans available in public databases. Captain Lisa Carter, now promoted to admiral and serving as humanity's chief diplomatic officer, worked desperately to limit the scope of the conflict. She negotiated ceasefires with species that were willing to recognize human sovereignty over their colonies, while coordinating with allies like Ambassador Sylvain to prevent the war from spreading to neutral territories. But each human victory made other species more frightened and more likely to join the fight against humanity. The final phase of the war came when the remaining Council forces assembled for a massive attack on Earth itself. Nearly 200 ships from 8 different species converged on the solar system, determined to end the human threat once and for all. The battle fleet was commanded by Fleet Marshal Zarthok of the Voidwalkers, who had convinced the other species that humanity would only be stopped by destroying their homeworld. The Battle of Earth lasted 18 hours and became the most studied military engagement in galactic history. Human defenses included orbital platforms, advanced fighter squadrons, and defensive fleets positioned throughout the solar system. The alien attack was massive but poorly coordinated, with different species using incompatible communication systems and conflicting tactical doctrines. Admiral Stone commanded the defense from the Lunar Command Center, while Jake Morrison led the mobile fleet actions that broke up alien formations before they could concentrate their firepower. The human victory was complete, but the sight of hundreds of alien ships burning in Earth's sky horrified populations throughout the galaxy, who had never seen such destruction. When the surviving Council forces finally sued for peace, they faced a galaxy that had been fundamentally changed by the war. Species that had maintained peace through mutual respect and diplomatic tradition now understood that peace could only be guaranteed by the ability to defend it. The old Council structure collapsed as member species realized they needed to completely rebuild their military forces and strategic thinking. Ambassador Lisa Carter led the negotiations for the new galactic order. The reformed Council included stronger protections for species sovereignty and new protocols for resolving disputes before they led to warfare. Dr. Turner established the Galactic Military Studies Institute, where human instructors taught alien officers modern warfare theory with the explicit goal of ensuring no species would ever again face such a technological and tactical disadvantage. 5 years after the war's end, Ambassador Carter stood in the new Council chamber and reflected on the price of humanity's acceptance into galactic civilization. The galaxy was at peace, but it was a peace built on the understanding that humans had changed the fundamental rules of interstellar politics. Every species now maintained modern military forces and studied human tactical manuals. Captain Jake Morrison, now serving as Director of Galactic Security, worked with reformed alien governments to prevent future conflicts through early intervention and diplomatic mediation. The irony was not lost on him that humanity had been invited to join the Council to help maintain peace, and they had succeeded, but not in the way anyone had expected. The Council chamber was filled with representatives who understood that behind every diplomatic negotiation lay the capacity for warfare that humans had demonstrated. Humanity had not just entered the Galactic Council, they had remade it in their own image, where peace existed not because war was impossible, but because everyone now knew exactly what modern war meant for civilizations unprepared to fight it.